right, welcome back to BCB Live. We're the safest station in the nation. And Drive Safe Dave. Today on Ladies Who Launch, we have Elisabeth Barna. Elisabeth is the Executive Vice President of the American Trucking Association. Elisabeth, welcome to BCB Live. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thanks so much for having me.
Always our blessing. I'll tell you that. We're lucky and privileged, and we appreciate the time that you're giving us. Let's just hop into it. Talk to us a little bit for some of the viewers that haven't had a chance to be introduced to you. Talk to us and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I have been in the trucking industry for a little bit over 25 years, so it's really my passion. It's my heart. I've been at ATA an awfully long time. One of the things that is under my portfolio is the improving the image of the industry and that of the professional driver.
Wow, and that's critical, especially as we look to bring others in here. Elisabeth, I do want you to talk about this. We talk about and we hear about Women in Motion, the program with the ATA. Talk to us that. Why was it started, and when did you get that launched?
Sure, we launched it mid-July, July 15th, and the reason we did that was we had heard from a lot of our membership that they wanted a positive women's program out there. And so that is what we did. We have done a lot since July 15. We've got some positive stories out in the news. We have 2 op-eds that ran just last week, one in Indianapolis, one in Knoxville. And it's really to empower those women that are already in the industry, help develop them, help grow them, but also to recruit professional truck drivers, technicians, dispatch, finance, safety, security, recruiting. We need women in the entire industry, not just out on the highway.
You know, there are a lot of similar programs kind of going what's going on right now, but why this one right now? Why this one did you decide to do this one?
Sure, we feel like we bring a lot to the table, and we work closely with Women in Trucking. Ellen Boyer is actually on our advisory committee. But we are a state federation. We are a federation. We've got 50 state trucking associations. So we've got a voice in every state and with their memberships as well. We've got an army of policy experts and lobbyists that can go up to Capitol Hill and into the agencies and that can help us work through some of those obstacles that women may face as a driver in the industry.
So you talk about lobbyists in how do we get involved? How does everyone get involved in this Women in Motion?
Everybody can get involved in Women in Motion by really telling the story of the trucking industry, getting out there and profiling women that are drivers, women that are in it, to talk about what a great career option trucking has, the different segments of the industry they have. You know, I had 2 America's Road Team captains in here with me today, and we were talking earlier about how do you recruit women? And Rhonda said back when, it was hard. The LTL jobs were hard to get, pick up and delivery, so it was hard for her to be home every night. Now she said you can walk into a job where it's P&D, and if you've got small kids, you can work 9 to 5 if you have to. So talk about the different segments of the industry. Obviously, the salaries and the compensation that you get, that I think people are a little bit surprised at what a truck driver can make and earn. And talk about the flexibility that they are really trying to have now, especially in the segment to allow you to get home at night.
We know that safety is obviously critical in everything we do. Women in Motion, what are you doing to kind of advocate the safety side of the business?
So I'll be honest, we launched on the 15th, and 2 days later, the truck parking bill was coming up in the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and so we went ahead and sent a letter from Women in Motion talking about the need for safe parking. So you're not parking, on an on-ramp or an off-ramp. It's well lit, and it's not only good for all professional drivers, but especially for women as well. So talking about that and talking about personal safety, there's a lot of women drivers out there. We say it's almost 8%. They've got great experience and great tips that they can give others just joining the industry. April was in my office and we were talking about, she said, everybody says, bring mace with you. She said, I bring hornet and wasp spray with me. It goes farther and longer, and so they're not even that close to me. So just little tips like that I think are really helpful.
And we've spoken to many women about the safety in the industry and what you're discussing about feeling. But I think one of the holdbacks for a long time for women in the trucking industry was the feeling of being safe while driving a truck. And I'm glad that you are bringing to the table, and talking about it, getting it out there, because the only way we're going to solve or get resolution or even bring it to the, so that everybody sees what's going on and women are attracted, is that we're addressing those issues.
I think that's absolutely right. And there's so many good tips. I mean, when you talk to a lot of the women, they say they feel safe, but they take steps to feel safe. They own they get out of the truck, they own their route to the bathroom or to the truck stop. They feel confident, they don't stop and talk and linger. That they really feel like if they're just sort of smart about it. One of them even said, it's just like me getting out of my car at night at a big box store. I look around before I get out. But a lot of folks are afraid of that, and so I think having other women give them safety tips is really important, but also to push the industry to even do more in the safety arena. I mean, the truck stops have been unbelievably great in always adding more lighting and making better facilities for women. But there's always more that other industries or other places can do as well.
Elisabeth, a couple of big topics hitting the news this week. Number one is possibly the strike in the with the railroads. We saw from the ATA saying somewhere around 470,000 trucks would be needed to take the extra volume if, in fact, they were to go on strike. I mean, what are you hearing? I mean, are you hearing any news on the strike? Is it going to happen? Will they get that worked out? And how are we in the industry possibly going to step in and once again come to the rescue of America?
No, I think we all learned from the pandemic that you never really know anything until it happens.
Right.
So, here in Washington, it's sort of the same thing. You hear a little bit here, a little bit there, and until they actually come to an agreement, I don't really want to speculate at all. But I will say that this is another reason that there has to be respect for the truck driver and for what the industry does. We learned a lot of that during the pandemic when people couldn't get the goods they needed, and now this may happen again.
Yeah, for certain on that. Speaking of respect for the truck driver, it is National Truck Driver Appreciation. Talk to us about some of the programs the ATA does for these truck drivers.
Sure, we are really excited this week. I always say everybody should be thanking a truck driver every day, but this is the week and the month to really celebrate the drivers. So through Trucking Moves America Forward, which is our image movement, we've got billboards across the country with real truck drivers on there, local drivers, calling them heroes. There's one that even says we're essential before essential was cool, because nobody was an essential worker before. Some of it is talking about trying to get, recruiting into the industry as well, talking about what a great career it is. We've got radio ads across the country as well. One of the things we're doing at ATA for the first time is doing fuel pump advertising. Thought we would reach a lot of families that way in the motoring public, and maybe they would be able to be more respectful out on the highways to the drivers and to the trucks out there. We've got one of our show trucks up in front of our Capitol Hill office today with a number of drivers. Members of Congress are stopping by, agency officials are stopping by, just really to highlight what the industry does and have them thank those drivers as well. And then the rest of the week, we've got a lot of radio, TV interviews. We're going to be over at FMCSA tomorrow with one of our women drivers talking about what it's like at their press conference to be a woman in the industry and why safety belts are so important. But we've got lots of videos. Our homepage, our CEO gives a big shout out to them. So just a lot of pats on the backs, a lot of thanks, and an awful lot of respect.
And we're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you really quickly. We've been talking about what's going on now and what we're doing, and you've been in the industry 25 years. Where do you see it going with women in the trucking industry and your vision, your personal vision for that?
I see it just growing. I really do. I think by the programs like Women in Motion, Women in Trucking, and having other women out there ascend to the top, we've got enough. In our state trucking associations, right now we have 13 state trucking association executives, presidents of their states, that are women, and at the end of the year we'll have 14. So I think the more women out there telling their story, the more drivers out there, women drivers telling their story, why they got into the industry, but why they stay in the industry, I think really is making a difference. We learned about 8 years ago when we started doing national polling that the more somebody knew somebody in the industry, the much better perception they had. And the perception of the trucking industry each year goes up. It's trending upward again this year. The poll will be completed just in about a week. But it's really people out there talking about it and taking pride in what they do, and trying to recruit others into the industry. You guys were talking about earlier, we've got a lot of retirees coming up, and COVID didn't help that, the pandemic, with a number of drivers retiring. So we really need to fill those seats.
Yeah, agree on that. And we did see an increase. We saw that in the Women in Trucking report came out, more seats from females. However, one thing we didn't see an increase of the other items involved in trucking, such as that mechanic job. That stayed at about 8%. There are so many sides of this industry that we have to sell. It's not just the truck drivers. Yes, we've got to get more truck drivers, but it's the dispatchers, it's the HR, it's the CEOs. So many positions out there that we need good, qualified people. Elisabeth, I want to thank you for all that you do. I want to encourage you to continue to go out there and spread that word. We're going to do what we can do to help Drive Safe Dave. Before she gets out of here, though, Dave, she's got a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, and we do. We ask all our guests before they get out of here, Elisabeth, they'll state their name, where they're from, or who they're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that for us?
Sure, Elisabeth Barna, American Trucking Association's watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.